We're moving on now with our next speaker, who's Nick Egnatz, Vietnam veteran, small businessman, and activist. His life as an activist began opposing in the imminent invasion of Iraq in 2003. This opposition soon grew to include all US wars, militarism, empire, and the war on the poor and working class, which he thinks was facilitated, and we think that too, by a monetary system designed to send everything straight to the top. Nick will be speaking on the relationship between the debt money system and slavery. And this is a subject lifted from his imminent book titled People, Planet, and the Power of Money, Reclaiming the Ancient Lost Power to Heal Our Planet and Ourselves.
Come on. I think you're going to just have to sit. Do we have sound here?
Hello. We can hear you. I'm still introducing you. And your daughter will be the discussant, or will I be? Or your daughter will introduce
I think you can be the discussion, but get my daughter in here.
Okay.
This is my daughter, Erin. Just say hi to everybody.
Hi. Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Well, I'll let you take it over from here. Tell us about your dad.
Okay, well, my dad, I'm so excited for my dad because, of course, he's living his life purpose, which is such a big deal, right? Most people don't end up doing that. So I'm just so proud of him. Yeah, I didn't really prepare anything, but you know, he is doing what he is here to do, and yeah, so I'm really excited for the book he's publishing because it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Erin. We're not really set up. I'm so delighted that we have the sound because I just figured out how to turn it on a few minutes ago here.
Okay, so you're kind of ready. Are you doing share screening or not? Do you need instructions, or you're just gonna talk?
I'm gonna talk.
Yes,
I don't
of
have
course.
any capability to do anything else. This
All
is
right,
Erin's
go
book.
ahead.
I Create. It's a best-selling book on Amazon, and it's been out, what, 6-8 months maybe, I'm guessing, or whatever. She has lots of positive reviews on Amazon. In fact, I think it's over 450 right now. So she's reached an audience for what she believes in, and I've been kind of going to write a book for several years, and finally I stopped and started about 4 times, switched the title and everything, but I finally come up with a finished, let's see, I'm trying to get over here where I can get my notes here, a finished product, and hopefully we'll have that book out by the end of the year. The title is People, Planet, and the Power of Money, Reclaiming the Ancient Lost Power to Heal Our Planet and Ourselves. And it's an effort to reach the masses with the only way forward that enables us to effectively deal with the twin crises we're confronted right now as a society.
Can you repeat that title one more time?
Yes. People, Planet, and the Power of Money. And again, it's not out yet, but I'm sure you'll all hear about it when it does come out. The people crisis we're confronted with, and it could be all sorts of different things. We had a depression in 2008. Well, we've got another one in 2020. This one's caused by this the COVID pandemic and depression, and I'm sure there'll be future ones too. But it's wreaked havoc among the poor people, working class, and small business owners. As a former small business owner, I just can't imagine being in business right now with this. And without getting the help to sustain yourself through until we reach some sort of a conclusion to this to the health crisis. And you know, at the beginning there was some relief for people and business owners, but there certainly hasn't been much coming more recently. And our system, our financial monetary system, is just not structurally suited to handling this kind of a crisis. Planet crisis, of course, we have a a problem with climate change, but we have other problems too that are maybe just as big. And no one is considering them. And for us to get the funds that we need to properly properly take care of these crises, we need a different money system. The planetary work that I'm not an environmentalist or anything even close to that, but I am very concerned about the environment. There was a book written in 2010, I believe, Ecological Rift, which outlined 9 planetary boundaries. Ecological Rift was written by John Bellamy Foster, Brett Clark, and Richard York. And the boundaries they outlined were developed by the planet scientists, James Hansen, Paul Crutzen, Johan Rockström, and the Stockholm Resilience Center, plus 42 other climate scientists that signed on with this. And they talked about climate change, that we had a pre-industrial rate. I can't go into detail on all of this because we don't really have much time here. But the pre-industrial rate for carbon in the atmosphere was 280 parts per million. That was before the Industrial Revolution. They came up with a boundary above which, if we go past these boundaries, there's really no going back to where we used to be. We're in uncharted territory. That boundary was 350 parts per million. There's been a movement called 350 parts per million or whatever. And presently we're at 412 parts per million. Actually, that was last year. I couldn't find a figure for this year. So we've breached it and gone past it. Melting the polar ice caps, rising sea levels, severe weather, hurricanes, floods, droughts, wildfire. That is all what occurs because of blowing past this boundary. Species loss or biodiversity is another boundary here. And we've already breached it. And the projections that these people at the Stockholm Resilience Center came up with is that if we don't change our ways, we're going to lose 1/3 of all living species by the end of this century. And what is that going to result in? Obviously, stressed and lost ecosystems, but also the inability to confront future pandemics. I get into that a little bit in the book. There's a lot of stuff that's covered in a book, and we're just kind of breezing right through here. So there's also the nitrogen cycle, where we're taking nitrogen out of the air so that we could fertilize our fields to grow enough food for 7.8 billion people. And that's killing our oceans with ocean dead zones. And then phosphorus, the same thing. We're sticking phosphorus into the oceans, and that results in ocean acidity. Ocean acidification is another thing that hasn't been quite breached yet, but it's going to result in a massive die down of shellfish. The amount of fresh water used by humans, the amount of land used by humans, these are all things that there's a limit to where we can go with this. And I did hear some talk, and we've had a wonderful day with grandkids. Our son was over all morning with his 3, and they were all running around here and everything. And I did get to hear some of the stuff, but not everything. And now Erin is over here with her 2. They're with Grandma in the other room. Anyway, to get back to our text here, the land use for agriculture. There's a limit to how much we can do without damaging the earth. Chemical pollution. In the book too, I do go into detail about plastics, which is a chemical pollutant. There has to be some place to take care of plastics. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, nothing should be allowed to be made of plastic that there isn't a stream to safely recycle it, repurpose it, and reuse it at all. And now even so many things, like I put everything plastic I can into the recycling, but most of that, from at least what I understand, is not actually recycled. They just throw it away. So then we deal with the particulates in the atmosphere. Atmospheric aerosol loading is what the scientists causes all sorts of problems, especially breathing problems and everything, which I happen to have. And the one bright spot out of these 9 boundaries is stratospheric ozone depletion. And some of us who are maybe of my age or whatever could remember when we were talking about ozone layer in the atmosphere, whatever it is. I didn't really understand the whole thing, but they were saying that the little spray bottles were causing this depletion of it. Anyway, that is under control according to our scientists, but the damage done from the sun's ultraviolet radiation will continue at the poles for decades. So both people and planet need help. And where we're going to get the help from is from the power of money. And money is above all else power. Whoever holds the power to create our money holds the power in society. That power to create our money or money power can be held by private individuals and corporations, or it can be held by the people through our representative government. Currently, the money power is held by private individuals and corporations. Needing to spend trillions of dollars to transition to clean, renewable energy, creating millions of good-paying jobs. We also need to do a whole host of actions to bring the other endangered planetary boundaries under control. This is going to cost trillions of dollars. We can't do this with a money system in which the people don't control the money system. That's what we're talking about. Our present system of money is structurally incapable of accomplishing any of the above. For those new to monetary reform, let me explain. Most of us have an understanding of how our money system operates. Our banks loan us money that already exists. Federal government creates our money that the banks loan us, and the Federal Reserve banks are part of the government. Isn't that how it works? None of this is true, but it all should be. And that is what monetary reform is about. I like to call it publicly created money, sovereign money from Dr. Huber. That is what we need to get to, so that banks will be loaning us money that already exists, and our federal government will be creating our money, and the Federal Reserve System will be streamlined, cut down, and put within our federal government, into the Department of Treasury. One of the reasons that we don't know anything about money and how our money system works is because those who have been given the keys to the kingdom, more or less, the economists have not told us. When I went to college, and believe me, I didn't study economics or anything, but I did take Econ 101. And when we got to the chapter about the Federal Reserve, our instructor told us that we wouldn't study the chapter. He said it was too complex for all but maybe a handful of people in the entire country to understand the Federal Reserve System. Now, I didn't object. I should have objected, but I didn't. I was glad to be able to skip the chapter. And then it wasn't too long, 2 years later, and I was in Vietnam. So that's what happened to me. And that's all covered in the book too. But there are 7 tactics used by the money power to continue in power. The first line of defense used to ensure the continuation of a toxic money system is to keep the people confused and in the dark about the present system, about the true nature of money and the alternative publicly created money. Keep us in the dark. Second line of defense is to tell us that we're too stupid to understand it. And that's just simply not true. The third line of defense is to tell us, if they have us use textbooks that lie to us about how our money is created. The fourth line of defense is to stop teaching monetary history, even in the most prestigious economics programs. In 2019, there were a total of 489 economics courses listed at the top 3 rated economics schools: Harvard, MIT, and Stanford. And there was not a single course on monetary history or the history of money. So how are these guys going to come out and know about money? They don't. The fifth line of defense is simply to ignore papers critical of the debt money system or supportive of publicly created money. The sixth line of defense is to control economics journals so that they will not publish papers critical of the debt money system or supportive of publicly created money. And the seventh line of defense is to make it clear to up and coming young economists that for them to buck the debt money system is career suicide. Little wonder that we, the people, are ignorant of how our money is created. Antonio Gramsci, he was an Italian. He was a socialist. He was a communist when Mussolini was in power, and they threw him in jail. And he died in jail. He wrote his prison notebooks. But he came up with a theory of cultural hegemony, that the state and ruling capitalist class use cultural institutions to maintain power. And I think you could kind of tie the same thing with the monetary thing, is that everything is used to keep this power in place and not be talked about. I don't know if it's exactly the same as his cultural hegemony, but it got me thinking about it. Another thing we talk about a little bit in the book is Karl Marx is an environmentalist. I never would have thought of that or anything, but he was, and he was the one that used the term metabolic interaction to refer to the complex dynamic interchange between human beings and nature. Marx contended that there is a necessary metabolic interaction between people and the earth. Man lives on nature and is dependent on it. Nature is his body, with which he must remain in continuous interchange if he is not to die. A sustainable social metabolism is prescribed by the natural laws of life itself. And this is something for us to think about, that we cannot just wreak havoc upon the environment and think that we're going to survive, or humanity is going to survive, or it's going to be around for our kids and our grandkids. We get into that too. And also in the book, we have a kind of a robust discussion about avoiding the capitalist socialist divide. So we live in a capitalist country, and the political, both political parties are capitalist parties, and disparaging socialism, and this is just idiotic. It's an absolute crime that this is being done, because we've never lived under laissez-faire capitalism where there are no regulations or anything, because capitalism is too voracious for that. So it always has to be pulled back and held in check. And we've always had institutions since our schools, police departments, parks, streets, all sorts of sewers that are socialistic. So instead of looking at capitalism or socialism, one's good, one's bad, whatever, we should be looking at our society should be a mixture. And it's up for us, the people, to have discussions about what the proper mixture is at the proper time in particular times in society. And I think that's an important point there. We go into the history of publicly created money: Sparta, Rome, American colonies, American Revolution, Civil War. I'm not going to get into any of that right now. But when we look back at just the concept of money, when people started to dig it out of the ground and as gold and silver, and we're going to make money out of this stuff, and that's what we're going to use in our society to measure wealth. Who was doing that? Somebody just sent me a friend request on Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook for weeks, but whatever. Who was doing that? Who was mining that gold and silver? It certainly wasn't you or I. It wasn't any kind of a working class or anything. It was slaves that were mining that gold and silver. And the only reason they had a money system based on gold and silver was because they had slaves to mine it. And the slaves mined it for those at the top of the heap, whether it was a king or a pharaoh or who knows whatever. But that's where the fruits of everybody's slave labor went to, right up to the top there. And without slavery, in most ancient societies, I can't say most, there were plenty of indigenous societies that didn't really have slavery, or it was completely different if they did have it. But very many of the ancient societies had slavery, and that's why they got a gold and silver money. They never would have come up with gold and silver money if they didn't have slaves to get to that. So that's an important point to think about. And then when we forward, or we're coming up in the Middle Ages in Europe, why were they the Dark Ages? Well, there were possibly more than one reason. One of the reasons being that there was kind of this narrowing in thought, and people were walking around with blinders on it, whatever. But a big part of it was because they just ran out of gold and silver, and they didn't have enough gold and silver to spread around for the population. And that's why they went through the Middle Ages. And how did they break out of it? They sent Christopher Columbus over to enslave the native Arawaks on the island of Hispaniola. And the entire race died off within 100 years after he was here, trying to find gold and silver for them, then just putting to work on plantations when he realized there wasn't any gold and silver there. But they sent Pizarro and Cortez over to South America and Central America to steal the gold and silver from the civilizations there that had developed it and brought it up for those at the top of the heap. And then these conquistadors went right in and took it back to Europe, where they had a Renaissance. But they had a Renaissance that was paid for with the slave labor gold and silver that was looted from the New World. So the debt money system is it's an untenable thing. I always like to keep things simple, and I hope I have so far here. It's a lot to talk about a couple 100-word book in a half hour. But the only result of having a system in which our money is created by banks when they make loans, it exists only while the loan is in play. As the loan is paid off, that money is extinguished. The only way for us we need to have money, it's the most important thing in society. You can't get anywhere without it. You can't get your food, shelter, or clothing, or anything. So we need to have this. And the only way we can have this in this system is for us to be in debt. That's idiocy. I think my time's up. I think my time's up. I'm available for questions or whatever, and we can get back to the program.
Nick, you got. To be fair to you, because you started at 2:40, you'll have 10 minutes more. If you want to go to question and answers now, I
think we can right now. I mean, there's, that's fine.
Questions and answers. All right, I got some for you then.
Okay.
I saw a few on the chat. Did you get those, or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, I caught some of them. So Herb Weisman keeps bringing up the donut economics. His question is just, have you seen donut economics, which integrates the exceeding of our boundaries and the shortfalls for the decent way of life people want to live?
No,
that might be a yes or no.
Well, the answer is no. I saw it on the chat and I took a note of it to look it up, but I'm not familiar with it.
Yes,
I'm not the expert on donut economics, but I'm wondering about it.
Yeah, no, I'll send you information about that book. Yes. Another question is, will you consider using the term just money to talk about sovereign/public money? it sounds like this book will be very powerful and could point people toward AFJM's growing movement if the author considers our work worthy of his support. Well, I think you're, I think you're already there. And because I know a little bit about your book, I told people like, yeah, no. He's even, nitpicking on the Need Act. So he's there with monetary reform.
Yeah, actually, and I had 3 or 4 titles, and one of the titles would have been publicly created money. And I thought that was, and that's mentioned throughout the book, but I got rid of that title because that title I don't think would appeal to people. I don't think they would understand, but I thought people, planet, power of money. This is a descriptive title, but I think it also hits some things which might stimulate someone to be interested in what it's about. And yeah, I do refer to the Alliance, and I do use the term just money in there more than a few times. But that's the term I'm using here is publicly created money, and I think because it's an action term, I like that, publicly created. It's not something that's static or something or other, but this is like something that we'll be doing actively. So that's why I like it.
Yeah. Another question was, and maybe there's also a quick yes or no. Have you read Debt, The First 5,000 Years by David Graeber, who unfortunately passed away 2 months ago?
I just heard that he passed away somewhere or other. And yeah, I read his book quite a while ago when it first came out. And if I'm not mistaken, Graeber didn't know anything about money. He knew all about debt, but as far as like publicly created money, privately, how the money was created, because I read him, he wrote a couple of just little editorials or something or other that I read online about that he didn't really understand that the banks were creating our money.
There are some questions still again, whether your book is out already or, so it's not yet published. You said in a couple of months, but of course that process, you never know.
Right.
I was involved in the anthology, the Spanish anthology, and there's always something coming up, of course. But it is coming. Are you self-publishing? Did you find a publisher? What's
I don't know yet. I'm planning on self-publishing. That's what Erin did with her book. And she's really, she's selling all kinds of books. And not only that, you could go to erinworley.com, WERLEY, and you could read about her book there or whatever. There's a link to it, or you could just go to Amazon, because she set herself up as a publisher. She and her husband, and it's published through Amazon, and they've really reached out to people. You can't, to read the reviews. I remember asking you to write a review for it because when it first came out, and I tried to write one, and I couldn't write a review for the book because I'm her dad, and that's okay. I wasn't going to say in a review that I was her dad, but anyway, she doesn't need our reviews. She gets reviews every day about people saying how it's changed their lives. And I think it's, how many reviews we got now, Erin?
I think it's 463 today.
463 reviews, and that's a lot of that's a lot of reviews, and it was because she marketed it to people, like what are, it was all the stuff that she had come up with in talking with herself or whatever it is, but people were able to latch on to it. So I'm trying to make the book, I put a lot of different historical things that are the absolute monetary stuff, but other things that are kind of tangentially connected to try to make it interesting and to try to add a little bit of humor or whatever it is in there too, so that the medicine goes down easier. And hopefully it'll get some kind of an audience, because the only way that we're going to move forward in this is to get people aware of what the situation is,
Well, I would say then, once your book is out, ask for the Alliance and maybe even the American Monetary Institute to do a little promotion for you. I would say, connect with Bo Young or Mark Young or myself to get at least a coffee house where we can, in depth discuss your book when it is out. So keep that in mind.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, of course, ask us far and wide to write reviews and put them on, wherever the book is available.
Hi, Leo.
So anyway.
Hi, Leo. We just got a grandchild come in.
Okay.
Thank you, and Govert. Thank you very much. Thank you for wanting to help out with this. Thank you for carrying on with the conference, for you and Steve and Mike and everybody. And thank you for inviting me to speak.
No, our pleasure. Our pleasure. It's too bad we couldn't sit down for a beer. Next
Another
time.
day.
Another day. Yes, yes.
Enjoy your
Nick.
grandchildren.
Yes.
Thank you. I will.
Yeah. Nick, thank you so much, man.
Okay, we'll see you later then.
Appreciate it. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
All right.
If this video is helpful, please hit the like button, subscribe for new video notifications. Please consider donating at monetary.org/donate. Don't forget to check us out on Twitter at AMI Monetary or on our website